Georgia opens up as a 37-point favorite over the UAB Blazers. That's quite a line for a team that didn't play its best on Saturday. But I think the big sort of takeaway for me here, not just with the rankings and the lines and all that stuff, is just because Georgia doesn't play the way that is perfect every single week doesn't mean that they're still not quite good. I mean, they're actually their odds to win the national championship are going up. So I think a lot of that has to do with Alabama regressing. But I think too, when Georgia fans are not watching the dogs, maybe there's a bit more grace that they give to other teams. I don't know, but I think that right now, Georgia's won 20 games in a row. These 3 games that they've won right now lately have nothing to do with the previous 17. But you get to a point where it almost seems like the critics, I guess you could say, are you're fighting perfection half the time if you're the dogs. And I think that the number one thing is they aren't perfect on the season. 37's a lot. Georgia's not lost a game like this ever. So the notion that UAB would beat Georgia, I think, is hard to grasp. But I do think that Georgia's got a lot to play for on Saturday night. I want to see what Carson Beck has in store. Carson on Saturday was very effective, 27 to 35. The 36-yard throw really opened the game up. And that really was what kind of popped Georgia out against South Carolina. Lovett was targeted 8 times, Brock Bowers 9, Marcus Rosenberg, Jack Saint 6, and Ra Thomas with 3 targets. He caught 2 of them. The 36-yarder was the one that kind of opened the game up for Georgia. But I do want to see how this team continues to progress. They're not playing the way that Georgia fans want them to play. Getting down 11 to a team that is just not that great in South Carolina, that's an annoying thing for, I think, a lot of Georgia fans. I understand it. You're not always going to play well, or at least you're not always going to play the way that you want to play every single game. The biggest issue right now are the missed field goals. I've talked about this a lot. And Kirby said that there was something they'd had to do about that. Now, I don't really know what that means. It's not just the field goals that are being missed. You're starting the game, kicking the ball out of bounds. I mean, these are real problems if you're a team trying to execute and be a national championship team. Our friends at EcoPoly are helping make this possible. You look at this rocker chair. This is one example. They designed, crafted, and shipped from their Eastman, Georgia manufacturing facility located in Georgia. Obviously, large showroom with all the products and colors and options to choose from. You see, this one's red, and it's got cushions underneath it now. But they can make it in multiple colors, so it's not just this one. There's all sorts of products we're going to feature here in the near future. There's all sorts of stuff, 20-year warranty, poly lumber, with built-in UV inhibitors to create a solid and durable product. Again, this is not just something you're going to go buy at a big box. This is the real deal. You're going to have this product, this furniture for years, decades. So take advantage now. 15% off. The link is right down below. You're going to get free shipping if you use our code. I think the code that Georgia's got to unlock is scoring in the red zone. That's the biggest thing. When I talk to people today on the phone, I don't think most people are like in some sort of panic or anything like that. If you want to see panic, you go see what's happening at Alabama right now. I mean, that is not a great situation in Tuscaloosa. I mean, there's a lot of concern. They don't know what's going on with their quarterback. Well, they know what's going on with their quarterbacks. It's bad. For Georgia, and I still have not watched the game on TV. I'm going to start it here in a couple of minutes. I had to do all this ahead of time. I think it's probably just what I think. I don't get to see elevated view. I'm on the field. And it's hard sometimes. You hear Kirby say, I got to watch the film. I mean, he's right. When you're on the field, you can't see every single thing that happens. So that's kind of problematic for me. But I think it really was a matter of Spencer Rattler really played well in the first half, and in the second half, Georgia completely and totally dominated the game. A lot of it is, Georgia just executing in the red zone instead of kicking field goals or attempting field goals, either making them or scoring touchdowns. Georgia's not as explosive as I thought they would be. But we're 3 games into this, and they have the ability to grow as a team. And I think that's indicative of this 37-point line. I mean, this week, by the way, there are some very fun games, and there are some very fun lines too. When you look at Ole Miss being a 7-point underdog to Alabama on the road. Now, that makes sense, or maybe that even seems low in the grand scheme of things when you think about, everything that we've seen over time. But I'm going to throw this up on the screen if I can real quick. This is the lines you're going to go see online. And, we're going to start the weekend with Coastal and Georgia State. Wisconsin is a 4-point favorite on the road. Gosh, they've not played well. Tech is a dog on the road. But, you look at Georgia's down here. This 30, well, you can't see my mouse. But 37 points for the dogs. South Carolina, 4-point favorite. The Clemson-Florida State game is a pick 'em. Now, that's not everywhere. Florida State's like a 2-point favorite on the road. But even that was kind of surprising. Tennessee, 2 touchdowns. Not great. Oklahoma, they're scoring points like crazy, but they're only an 11-point favorite on the road at Cincinnati, a team that just lost to Miami of Ohio. UCLA, a 7-point dog at Utah. We're about to see it it's about to start getting real in the Pac-12. Maybe not so much for USC or Stanford because they're playing the Arizona schools. Colorado, a 21-point dog against Oregon. You want to shock the world? You go up there and beat the Ducks. I don't know if that's going to happen. And then Kentucky, a 12-point favorite over Vandy. Just looking at more of these lines, the Rebels, a 6-point dog on the road at Alabama for Ole Miss. What does that mean for Alabama? I mean, does that mean they're going to go back to Jalen Milroe? There's a lot of curious things here. Texas A&M is only a 6-point favorite over Auburn on the road. I mean, I think that's kind of getting my point here. Ohio State, a 3-point favorite against Notre Dame. The Gators only 24 over Charlotte. Georgia is very much in a position here where they're going to be massive favorites almost in every single game they play this year. What I mean by massive is 12 points or more. I mean, what happened with the Tennessee game, that probably moves Georgia to being a double-digit favorite in Neyland if things continue. If Georgia winds up there undefeated and Tennessee's got 3 losses, that game's still going to be a tough game no matter how many losses Tennessee has. It's hard to play at Tennessee. It's hard to play at Auburn. But, you got to just go out and execute. Georgia's getting the yardage. Excuse me. 189 yards on the ground. I love that. That's exactly what you want. 27 of 35. No interceptions. No touchdowns, but no interceptions. 400 and almost 60 yards of yardage. I mean, that's a lot. And, South Carolina with 309. That's not a crazy amount by any stretch. You're outgaining your foe by 150 yards. You should win by 10, and they did. I mean, I think they should have won this game by 16 minimum, and very possibly by 24. And but that would assume that they are executing on every single play, which is not what's happening, and that should not be expected. I mean, the other team's going to make plays. South Carolina scored a touchdown on a 3rd and 16. That's amazing. They scored, and then they drove the field on another one. They had 2 very good drives in this game, but other than that, they just didn't do a lot. They just did not do a lot offensively. South Carolina with only 309 total yards of offense, 256 from Spencer Rattler, who started off uber hot and ended uber cold, 22 of 42, 2 interceptions. I don't mind the interceptions. That's not whatever. But, I mean, South Carolina didn't even bother to run the ball. They weren't even trying. 16 for 53. 16 for 53. I mean, that 3 yards, not even 4 yards a carry, that's just not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it. And Georgia, meanwhile, was going 189 for 44. And Kirby would argue about some of these throws or whatever. That's 4.3 yards a carry. I mean, that's a lot. That's not unbelievable, but that incorporates sacks in it as well. Georgia actually ran 80 plays in this game, which is not bad either, considering the clock the way that it is. But it was down a little bit to 5.8 yards a 5.8 yards a down. There's some things to clean up for the Dogs. There's some things to clean up. Third down conversions, 5 of 13. The one conversion that they needed in the fourth quarter, they go 3 and out. So there's some stuff, but if this is as bad as it gets, you're doing okay. And so far, this is as bad as it's gotten for Georgia. If you're Texas, you're tied with Wyoming in the fourth quarter. If you're Alabama, you don't have a quarterback. If you are Florida State, you're trying to survive Boston College. Clemson has got a 3 touchdown loss to Duke on the road. There's some rough football right now, and it's not exclusive to what Georgia sort of did, but Carolina came to play, Carolina came to win. They just didn't. Georgia is allowed to be ready to play at the start of games too, and that's the number one thing they should be trying to do this week.